I was awoken to this music that was just so real, so incredible. And from that moment on, I was hooked, and I said, this is what I love, and this is what I can't stop thinking about every night.
Welcome to A Musical Mind. I'm your host, Richard Raymond II. I'm a recording engineer, music producer, and multi-instrumentalist located in Colorado Springs, Colorado. In this podcast, we'll talk to a variety of musicians about the music-making process, as well as the life and mindset that have helped them find success as a musical mind. Thank you for being here. Here we go. What's up, music peeps? Hope your week is going great. And if it's not, I hope you're hanging in there and looking at that glass half full. Anyway, today's guest is Alex Thompson, the musician, composer, and piano teacher from the UK. I actually am realizing I don't know where specifically he's located in the UK. But anyway, Alex is about 28 or so, and he is currently in his 10th year as a musician, a career musician. So today we talk a bit about how he's managed to do that for a whole decade, especially starting so young. It's definitely not been a one-dimensional thing. He does lots of different things under the umbrella of music to create his total salary, so to speak, from being a YouTuber to a piano teacher to a performer, even writing some music for musical theater and all that good stuff. We also talk a bit about life and things outside of music too, towards the end there. So, without further ado, here we go. A Musical Mind with Alex Thompson. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of A Musical Mind. I'm here with today's Musical Mind, Alex Thompson, the UK-based musician and composer. Alex, how are you today?
I'm very well,
Tonight's
thank
night
you.
for
I was
you.
going to say it's tonight for me. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the sun is just setting outside my window in front of me. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I just got back from the grocery store, spent about $200, but I'm feeling real good. We were camping this past weekend, and so we got home to a light fridge, and it feels very
Ah.
good to know that the whole fam's gonna be taken care of for the next couple weeks here. So,
Oh, that's lovely, man.
I'm still riding that high personally. Um, but anyway, I wanted to let people know how I found you since you are the second person from the United Kingdom. This previous episode was Mark Nell, the owner of Five Pin Media, the sample label that I have done some work with. And we have Alex here, who I found on YouTube. I have a synthesizer. It's called the Prophet Rev 2. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's pretty popular these days. And I was trying to figure out how the hell to use it. And in the process, I stumbled on, I think, 2 or 3 tutorials from Alex, making some patches that really just that was like, "Yep, that's the type of sound I wanted to get out of this thing." And, one thing led to another. I wound up on his Instagram, and I saw that he was a piano teacher as well, and I had been wanting to take lessons. But I also needed to learn how to make my own synth sounds. So I was like, I'm gonna reach out and see if maybe we can do some hybrid of like classical piano training and like synth design. And that's what we did for not a super long time, probably 4 or 5 sessions, but
Mhm.
I learned a lot. Um and I still feel like I'm learning from what you showed me. So how did you wind up on YouTube? Like what motivated you to what made you think that your patches were worth sharing with the world?
Oh wow, that's a great question. Yeah, I I started messing around with it during lockdown. A lot of my friends who are musicians, in real life that I know from sort of local area and stuff, they had been making pretty big names for themselves by posting Instagram content of them playing, and also they're all gearheads and all that sort of stuff. In terms of like a lot of them were drummers, so really into like snares and all that sort of stuff. And it goes, well, that goes above my head, but I just saw how much people sort of interacted with that sort of content. And I'd always, since I've been a professional musician, which is 10 years now, I started teaching and playing music professionally since I was 18. I'm 28 now. And so I've always been teaching. I've always been performing with keyboards and doing piano stuff. And I've just had such a varied, what's the word I'm looking for? I've had such a varied experience with music in general, professionally, that I had all this sort of really strange, not always the same sort of genre. I'm very broad in terms of genres that I listen to and enjoy. And I've always been the sort of person that just wants to recreate everything that I hear,
Mhm.
whether that's like melodies by ear or um, synth sound design. Just like listening to like one of my main early influences was Disclosure. Um, um, and I'm not like super into house music or dance music like that, but the way they use like Roland Junos and stuff, I was just like, oh, this is incredible. I've got to try and recreate this. Using stuff that really wasn't capable of recreating it authentically, but I tried anyway.
Yeah,
I
that's
feel
how
like I
you
did my
learn
best.
too.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just training my ear essentially. So I'd used the Rev 2. I bought one of the first ones. I think mine's like 136 or something. And I was really excited because I'd seen James Blake
Mhm.
has a Prophet or had a Prophet '08, and I saw it was like basically the next iteration of that. The Rev 2 is, and
Mhm.
also Nick Semrad used the Prophet '08 for years and years, and I very closely followed them, and so I was just trying my best to like listen to all their sounds, recreate their sounds, and then as any creative does, you then have those sounds and then you try and make them your own and just manipulate them ever so slightly to make them more interesting for what your ears want them to do or whatever this project is you're working on wants it to do. So I I basically just like experimented as much as possible. I found that I could create some very basic synths but make them a little bit more organic and alive. At least I think anyway. Especially with the lo-fi patch, which is probably one of my main videos at this point. It was the first one I
Yep,
put out, so it's very badly. Like when I look back on it, I cringe
sure.
because I didn't have a script for it or anything. I was just like, "Oh, you do this, you do that, you do that," which isn't very time effective for a YouTube video.
Yeah.
But I thought that that sounded really good, and I thought, hey, I a lot of people were doing Rev 2 videos, but they were sort of just advertising patch sets, really,
Yeah,
rather than like showing people how to do stuff.
right.
So I thought I might as well gain some followers, or try to anyway, and just try any old thing,
Yeah.
basically, just to get a following in any way possible.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't be here if you didn't make that video, so, I mean, and I
Exactly.
appreciate it. To this day, I still feel like there's a bit of there's you and, there's one other guy, I think it's like Toman or something. He's like, I think Eastern European. I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure his name is Toman. But he has some really good videos, that kind of show you how to use the thing. And then there is just a whole boatload of people trying to sell patches. And honestly, sometimes I'll put those on as just background music because it'll be like an hour of just like patches if I'm just kind of, chilling out or whatever. I'll throw that
Yeah,
on. But I do still feel like there's a need for that because I have an idea of what I'm doing now. I kind of go in and out with keys let alone synth. So I don't use it a ton, but when I do, it's great, and I still use those patches that I saved the ones that you made. I made them and then I
Oh,
saved them. And actually, I wanted to cue people in um, on my record Glimmers. I used two of the patches, and one of them, at least two of them. These are the most prominent ones. Is the lo-fi patch on the
hey.
song Radi Tala during like the breakdown in the middle of the song. It should be fairly obvious, kind of like everything stops,
Mhm.
and then this that patch comes in, and then it kind of just starts stacking instruments on top of it. Um, and then the other one is the not one that you made and put up on YouTube, but one that we designed together off of
Mhm.
we were trying to model a patch off of an Aphex Twin song, which I never know how to say his songs. It's P-A-P-A-T. I don't know if he's calling that P-A-P-A-T or Papat or whatever,
Yeah.
from, the record Cyro, and it's like a "whoop, whoop, 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 whoop," kind of like, Nangs by Tame Impala, and I didn't
Yeah.
really know how to do that, and you helped me craft one of those patches, and then that became my song called Mo Do, which is my wife's favorite on the album. So, um,
Oh, there we go.
yeah, and that's like you can't have that song without that patch. Like,
Mhm.
uh, some songs you can play them however on any instrument and they're gonna stand up. But I do feel like that's one of those ones that's like it's all about the sonics more than it is about
Mhm.
the chords. Not
Mhm.
that the
Mhm.
chords aren't good, but um so yeah, that's awesome that you just felt compelled to do that. Um, you mentioned since 18 you've been a professional musician. First off, congrats.
Thank you very much.
Giving
Yeah.
it a round of applause here. That's quite the feat. How did you get your start? You're a pianist first and foremost, correct?
Yeah.
So, um, are you I imagine you're classically trained given that you can classically train others. So how did that all happen? And let's start with that, and then I'll tag on to that.
Yeah, so I was classically trained. I didn't go to music college or anything, so I've got quite a non-traditional sort of route into music. I had private piano lessons after school. My mum always made sure that I went every week. I learned classical music and I really didn't enjoy it
Mhm.
for the majority of the time that I was learning. I then um, I then got to secondary school. I don't know how this translates to American
High
schooling.
school, probably.
High school, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
what
that's it. I think.
ages? Like 14 to
So
17?
it's between the ages of 12 and 16.
Yeah, we
Secondary
don't even
school is.
have that over here.
Do
That's
you not?
funny. No, we start from it's like 14 to 17 or 18 depending on where your birthday lands. But
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. Mm. So secondary school, I started getting to music at secondary school, and I did. We call them GCSEs. So that's like at the end of secondary school. It's sort of like a decides how good your grades are to take you further to college or things
Sure.
like that.
Yeah.
I studied music and I found jazz, and I'd never really heard jazz before, and I was just so in awe of
Mhm.
these sounds that I'd never heard before. And it was, I know exactly what time of year it was, what the track was, pretty much everyone in the class and everything. It was Miles Davis's Kind of Blue album. And we listened to all blues and then So What. And and we had a teacher that was a jazz sax player
Mm.
teaching us. And one of the lessons afterwards, he got out his sax and he just was like, at the end of the lesson, look, you can go if you want, but I'm just going to show you what it's like playing jazz live. And he just had a backing track and he just absolutely destroyed it. He was like, in a good way, obviously, he was like
Yeah.
absolutely killing it. And I
Yeah.
was I was like, my jaw dropped, my eyes were wide open. And I basically like, I was just awake. I know that sounds really strange to say, but I was like
No.
awoke, like I was awoken to this music that was just so real, so incredible, and from that moment on, I was hooked, and I said, "This is what I love, and this is what I can't stop thinking about every night." Um, as a 14-year-old boy,
Wow.
um, and then and I my brother joined. My brother's a bassist, but he does it sort of part time, so he has a day job as well.
Older brother?
Um, he's 5 years older than me. Yes,
Okay.
and he I think he either joined a jazz band or was going to join a jazz band, and he got given a load of random compilation jazz records. And I just used to sit there listening to him all the time. So I listened to like Bill Evans.
Love Bill
I listened
Evans.
to the Village Vanguard album and Portrait in Jazz, and then I listened to loads of Oscar Peterson and stuff like that. And I even had a Keith Jarrett album a little bit later on, the Live in Cologne concert, which is just, I'm probably butchering that name, but it's just
Alright.
incredible. It's just him sitting down playing piano with nothing planned. He just sits down and plays for like, I don't know, I think it's like 2 hours or an hour and a half or whatever. It's
Nice.
incredible. Um, so I so I so I had my private piano lessons, and then I got to grade 8, got my grade 8 in classical piano. I also, this whole time as a kid, was a musical theatre performer.
Mm.
So I did the whole child actor, child performer on stage, doing West End tours and stuff. I did uh, like professionally, like I got paid for it and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty crazy, really.
Yeah.
When I think back on it, it's pretty crazy. And that was what I wanted to do initially. That was what I really wanted to do. And the piano was just something that I just did on the side. My mum sort of forced me to do it. Hi, mum.
That's yeah.
So I'm so glad she did.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Um, yeah, so I was doing musical theatre, and that's what I wanted to do for my career. And I sort of started the road to stage school and studying like that. And that was about, so I'd done my GCSEs, and then I went to college to do musical theatre, and I didn't want to do it anymore. I fell out of love with it. I felt like it wasn't what I actually enjoyed. And I was basically just thinking about jazz all the time,
Yeah.
which is really, really funny. And I didn't realize at the time just how intense this feeling was. Um, and I had a piano teacher who was really wonderful. His name is Peter McLaren. He moved to the Isle of Skye, which is right up outskirts of Scotland, sort of thing. So far, far away from me in Birmingham. And he taught me so much philosophically about music. And we primarily focused on classical together. But he taught me so much about what it means to really like feel music rather than just play it. Obviously, we focused on playing a lot; it's a big part of it. But he really taught me so much philosophically and emotionally about what it means to be a musician and what it means to perform and play music and give respect to the art form that is classical, that is jazz, that is songwriting, that is pop, that is funk, anything like that. He just taught me so much to really like open my ears, really focus on what it is that's being said. Not with words, but with melody or chords or harmony or rhythm. He taught me for quite a few years, and then I put a hard no on the musical theatre career, quit
Mm.
college, and I just said, I'm gonna practice 6 hours a day, 6 hours a day, every day. And I'm going to try and get a little bit of work playing in bars to get my performance sort of ability up in the local area where I grew up. And I did it. I did it. I spent about a year and a half, 2 years just practicing every day for about 5, 6 hours. Tried to learn every type of music that I could. I got jobs in piano bars, in hotels playing cocktail piano.
Nice.
I joined jazz bands that were very local, and we got paid 30 quid per gig.
Mhm.
Like absolutely nothing, like
Yeah.
a disgustingly low amount of money. Um, but they were after an amateur jazz band. They weren't after something professional. And I took on musical theatre accompanist work because I'd still got connections in the musical theatre world. So I did amateur musical theatre society work, which was a really tough job because my sight reading isn't the best. It was probably my least developed skill in all of music.
I think that's a good thing, personally.
Yeah, I was just like, I need to work on it. So why not get
Sure.
paid a little bit of money
Yeah.
and sit there and practice sight reading for 2.5 hours a night. And I did that for probably about 7 years. Every year I did musicals and stuff. Sit in the rehearsals, learnt the graft, learnt what it meant to be a assistant musical director and what it meant to like chart parts out that weren't in the score that needed adding in, or to condense the score down, or to um, just to be able to teach amateur performers how to give a really good performance. I learned a lot from the musical directors that I worked with. So and that's translated into all of the aspects of music that I've been working on. Yeah, sort of a lot of like working on the job, being completely overwhelmed by the amount of work I've got to do and how I'm really not at the level that I'm working at, but just finding my feet as best I can and just trying to push through it to the point where I start to make sense of it. And basically, I've been doing that for 10 years. And and somehow I'm still here making a living out of just playing music, and it's what I do full time, and I make money out of it, and I'm very grateful.
Does it
So
still
yeah,
feel, like you're in over your head, or do you feel like your abilities have kind of caught up?
I think it depends on the job.
Sure.
I am I feel very comfortable as a performer now.
Mhm.
I feel like I used to have a fear about playing in. Someone just asked me for any key, or they'd like ask to change the key to a song like at the gig, and I'm terrified. But I can play in all 12 keys now. It's not a problem
Yeah.
because I've been in that situation so many times. You just learn to work through that. So as a performer, yeah, I'm very comfortable. I don't really worry about it. And obviously doing not only like jazz and all that other stuff, but doing synth based music and gigs like that where you've really got to have patches and sound design, you know, sorted, and a quick turnaround on those sorts of gigs. I feel like I'm quite comfortable doing all that sort of stuff. But I'm trying to like, so I stretch myself into composing and music producing, music production and stuff. And I think that's the thing that I've not quite mastered yet. I think I have music that I've put out, and um and also I think music production is very, very subjective. Um
Yes.
so it's quite a difficult one to uh to really know. And I'm still quite new to it in comparison to like gigging and performing, which I got
Sure.
paid to do a lot. The music production stuff is something that I don't get as much time to spend doing. So I feel like that if someone asked me to write a track for them, I'd be a little bit more worried than if someone was like, "Oh, I've got a gig tonight. Can you turn up and play on it?" you know.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's funny to hear you say, because as I'm hearing you talk about, someone flipping the key on you, when you're up on stage or whatever, I'm like, I'd be
Mm.
fucked. Like, most likely I'd be fucked. But then to hear you say that about, like, writing a track for someone, I'm like, "Oh, that's, like, in my wheelhouse." So I'm sitting here
Exactly. Yeah.
feeling inferior to you, like, "Shit, man, he's like he plays more,
No.
he gigs more, like, all this stuff." And I'm like, "Ah, I got you there, though." So
Well,
it
that's
just
it.
goes
Yeah.
to show that there's so many different hats to wear, and Who
Yeah,
fucking cares who's better at what? Um,
exactly.
you know,
It's all
it's
just
all
making music.
exactly. Um, well, that's super cool. And the one thing you didn't mention there, and I don't know how much you do this, but you did it for me, is teaching. So how often
Mm.
are you still actively teaching people, giving lessons and stuff?
Mm. Yeah, I am. I still teach every week. I unfortunately I've cut down over the past year. I have just been my teaching started out initially as I think a lot of musicians will relate to this, that during the week there aren't that many gigs on.
Mhm.
So you have to try and sort of supplement income, especially in the quieter months, like January and February and stuff, with other work. For me, teaching was an obvious next step. Um, so I've always done it sort of during the week, but unfortunately, this past year it's sort of come to fruition that midweek gigs have have arrived
Yeah,
pretty much every week, and I'm very lucky and I'm very grateful for it. It's and obviously the gigs pay for me anyway. The gigs pay much better than teaching does.
mm,
But I don't think I'll get rid of it. I think I've just sort of toned it down a bit because of my schedule. But
sure.
I've always loved it, and I've always loved the variety of of the lifestyle that I have. So
Yeah.
yes, so I still teach every week.
Well, that's great, man. I can't help but wonder, like, I wanna talk about money. Um,
Okay.
you've been doing this for 10 years. Have you had to like, when you say you've been doing this for 10 years, has there ever been a bit where you've also been working at a restaurant or something? Or has it just purely been teaching or, working in the musical theater, all, like, music-based?
Mhm.
That's my first question. I have a follow-up after that.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So initially, on the first couple of years, when I was practicing lots, I also tried to. I worked for my dad, and my dad owned a removal company, which is basically like if people want to move house,
Mm,
then a removal company sort of packs up all the stuff, puts all your sofas and beds and pianos and gear and stuff in a big lorry, and then ships it or drives to the new house and unloads it and puts everything back. So probably not the best job for a pianist or a musician in terms of like fearing about like chopping your fingers off by accident
yeah,
with a
that's one of
with a
my
big box or
biggest
something.
fears, truly. Like,
Yeah.
if I think about losing a finger, it freaks me out. I mean, you
Mm.
figure it out, and in some cases, you invent some new way of playing or whatever, but, I'll just keep all 10, you
It's
know?
the anxiety of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah. So I did some work for my dad when I first started out. I was very lucky when I first started out that because I didn't go to university or anything, my parents sort of kept me.
Boom.
They let me live with them. Um, so I was very grateful for that. So I didn't really have to pay rent or anything.
Mhm.
They sort of just helped me, basically treated it like I was at university. I'm just
Yeah.
practicing all the time and doing it that way. But I initially worked for my dad and gigged and practiced, and then after a while I started teaching, and that usually came from students would see me at a gig and like the
Mm.
way I played and want to be able to play as well, uh, or play like that. So I started teaching like that, and then I also had that background from musical theatre. So I kept up with my tap dancing training that I did growing up, and I then I got qualifications and became a tap dance teacher for a few years, which was really fun. I really enjoyed that. That was I feel like tap dancing is quite a musical um, form of dance. I
Totally.
see tap dancers as musicians, I see dancers as musicians as well, really, but
Yeah,
tap dancing's very rhythmic, it's very
totally.
percussive. So I ended up teaching that for a little while, and yeah, and then I think after about 3 years of 3 years of being a professional musician, I was able to just do it full time, and so gigging and teaching was my only income, basically. And that's been it. That's been it since. Yeah, I haven't
And
needed to. I haven't needed to take on a secondary job.
and you, presumably you live by yourself or do you live with roommates still at home?
I live with my partner Fee. She's a jazz singer, so we have a jazz band together.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
Little plug. We're called the Jazz Apples. If you want to follow us. Um,
Go to the show notes, I'll have it there.
yes, that's it. So we perform together, and we've lived together for 5 years nearly now. I think, yeah, around 5 years. Um, and yeah, we both worked very hard. We gig together a lot. We also gig separately. Yeah, we make it work.
That's awesome. I think I'm just trying to like I think as we're doing this podcast here, not this one specifically, as I'm doing this podcast in general, I'm realizing that I think part of what I want this to do for people is to show them that like they can do it. I've had a
Mm,
variety of people, some who are everyone's a musician in some form or another. Some of them, it's their only source of income. And I kind of just want to show people that like it can be done if that's what your heart desires. And I think many of us musicians, that's you said, you're 14. That's all you're thinking about every night. Like that was
mm,
me. I fell asleep listening to music every single night, all through high
mm,
school and college. And there was like the thought of doing anything else was terrifying. I've
mm,
kind of let go of some of that now. I've kind of found my way. I don't exclusively do music. I primarily edit podcasts these days, but that's really actually restored a lot of balance for me.
mm,
Like hearing or not just being focused in on music. 'Cause for a stretch there, it was like if you weren't musically involved or interested in music, then like you weren't helping me get to my end goal or whatever you wanted. So I kind of like had this narrow vision of who I wanted to surround myself with. And I feel very different now. What's up, guys? Taking a quick pause here to talk about my sample pack, Laid Back and Groovy Guitars. I did this sample pack with 5-Pin Media, the British sample pack label. And in this sample pack, you will find 376 live guitar loops, 144 guitar one-shots, and 142 lap steel one-shots, all drawing on an influence from psych, jazz, funk, and soul, inspired by artists such as Khruangbin, Goat, Fela Kuti, and Herbie Hancock. All these loops are both DI and the amp signal with printed effects and are distributed over the BPMs 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, and 120, all evenly distributed over 4 different keys, giving you a wide variety of moods and feel to play with. Guys, there is a ton in this sample pack. Check it out. Get all the guitar you need for your beats. If you're a drummer, you want to play along to some guitar loops, whatever you need, this thing has it. I spent a shitload of time on this. Click the link in the show notes. Once again, Laid Back and Groovy Guitars by 5-Pin Media, available on loopmasters.com. Go and get it. The second part to that, I'd ask, do you feel financially stressed often, or do you feel abundant?
That's a great question. It ebbs and flows for me. I think as the seasons change, I think a lot of musicians feel this. Yeah, it ebbs and flows. So I think in the summer months, like at the moment, I'm not thinking about money as such. I'm just thinking about how to survive, uh, how to stay alive during these
Yeah.
incredible days of like, I'm doing 16, 17-hour days,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like, and I'm playing like 3 gigs in a day or something like that, something absolutely horrendous.
Mhm.
So at the moment, like, I'm like, yeah, I'll be fine. It's not a problem. But I know that like about 4 months ago or whatever, I was probably a little bit more worried, thinking, oh, what am I going to do? What
Mhm.
I need to figure out a way to earn a bit more. And I also, my attitude is with music is that I earn enough to sort of live on, but I'm not a very materialistic person. So any sort of money that I earn on top of that, I'm either saving to get out of the horrible rental situation that my country is in.
Yep. It's not just
Or
your country.
no, I know it's not mine. Yeah, and it's not just
Yeah.
mine. Yeah, it's horrific, absolutely horrific. Even though I'm very blessed with not living in London,
Mhm.
because London is essentially double everywhere else in the
I've
in the
been
UK.
there, and it was an expensive weekend.
Yeah, it really is. It really
Yeah.
is. Yeah. So either enough to sort of save a little bit to potentially one day buy a house, or the other thing that my money goes on is investing back into music, whether that's promotional stuff, whether that's new gear for compositional stuff, or for gigs and stuff like new keyboards,
Mhm.
anything like that. Really, I'm the sort of person where I feel like the more you put into it, the more you get out of it, essentially.
I
Um,
firmly believe that too.
yeah.
It's
So,
it can
yeah.
be scary to take those jumps, but I do
Mm,
think that that's the way it goes. I mean, I'm sitting in like this I love this room. I put a lot of money into this room when I moved across the country, and that was kind of the, um, first time that I was like, "I'm gonna throw a bunch of money at this, and it's gonna fucking work. And if it doesn't, I'll learn from it, I'll get back up, and I'll figure something out." But prior to that,
yeah.
it was always kind of like, "What's the cheapest way I can do everything so that
Mm,
I don't have to stop doing it?" But you're
mm,
almost like you're limiting your
mm,
potential when you approach it that way.
mm.
Um,
I agree.
well, thanks for sharing all of that. I think hopefully someone hearing this, that gives them the confidence to go do it themselves.
Mm,
Another
mm.
question, just because I'm curious, me being a new dad, is do you and your partner plan on being together forever? Has there been any talk of having any kids, anything like that?
Um, we definitely plan on being together forever. I think I think that's pretty obvious to anyone that knows me and Fee. Um, yeah, I think we've got a very special connection. We've been we've been together for nearly 6 years now,
Congrats.
and yeah, and I feel like we've grown so much together.
Mhm.
We've set roots and foundations down that are so intermingled now. Um, it's a wonderful experience uh, to really have. I'm forever grateful that I met Fee. And it's funny because we actually met. We got put on a gig together by a friend of ours, and uh, his name's Levi Washington. I hope he's listening to this. Shout out to him. He put us on a gig together, and we just thought each other were great. We both loved the same music. We both loved talking about philosophy and the meaning of life in all its various things, and
Mhm.
I've learned so much from her, and we've both grown so much together. We've both encouraged each other to really live up to our full potentials, even when our self-esteem might not be at that same point. Having that other person to really hold you and say, "No, you can do this. You are capable. You are enough for this thing." It's it's an incredibly special and powerful thing. So I definitely see myself being with Fee forever. The second part of your question about kids, it's definitely a topic for discussion with a lot of friends. So it's funny that you mentioned it. Being the age that I am, all
Right.
well, I wouldn't say all, but a lot of friends are going through that period of time where the children
Mhm.
start arriving. Um, for us, I mean, for me, I'm personally not that fussed about having a child of my own. Um, I think that I've still got some things I really want to do that require all my time. And I know this might sound a bit, I don't know, maybe superficial or ridiculous, but I feel like music and the musical projects that I'm working on at the moment are essentially like whiny children in terms of how they sit in my brain and tell me off and
Yeah.
don't do what I want them to do and require a lot of work and a lot of sacrifice and a lot of effort. So I'm pretty much made up with my projects at the moment. So at the moment, no, I'm not thinking about children. Um, but you never know.
Mm.
I think I
Sure.
think I think I really like the idea of adoption. I think,
Mm.
and that's probably very intimate and strange thing to say. But I think I think that's really special. I think yeah, I'm gonna leave it there.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing. I've asked a couple people that now, and I've gotten a variety of different answers, but you're right. I think, like, we're about the same age, and it's kind of like this thing that's happening, and I'm going through it, and, like, I see how much it changed, and there's admittedly, like, a bit of, like, kinda jealousy for people who don't have the same commitments that I do, um,
Mhm.
and so I think that's part of what, like, prompts me to ask that because there's, like, this part of me that's like it's like I want them to say yes so that I can have someone feel similar to what I'm
Mm,
feeling, you know?
yeah,
Um, if that makes any sense.
yeah.
'Cause,
What's the usual response?
I've got one no
Okay.
from another friend of mine who plays piano, and as you were kind of describing how you developed, as a piano player, I'm like, "This sounds eerily familiar, like, lock yourself in a room for 5 or 6 hours, like, that's how you
Yeah.
get there." And then, my first guest, he seemed stoked to have I think he said multiple kids. I didn't have to ask him. He asked me about being a dad because he's already made
Oh.
up his mind. So that one was interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, it really when we're in sort of, a non-traditional the way of earning money, like, just the schedule can be, uh, sporadic, I guess.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
so when I'm happy to figure it out a way where, like, I kind of have control over when I work. I work when my daughter naps for the most part, um, 'cause I work remotely and I work on podcasts or mixing music as well, and, I can do that when she naps, and when she's up, like, I'm usually up with her. My wife and I are in a similar situation, or, if I have to plan ahead of time, like, "Hey, like, I need an hour and a half on this day because I need to touch these recordings that have been sitting there." And I'm just kind of figuring out how to our daughter's, like, old enough now to where she's a bit more adaptable, so, uh, for the first, 7, 8 months, I didn't even like it felt wrong to like even ask for that space
Mm.
because I knew it would all fall on my wife and our child in the best way. She's bananas. Like she has so much energy. Um, just like it's very demanding,
Mm.
but she's also incredible. And um, so yeah, it's like it's a different experience for me being someone who, um, I worked minimally. I wasn't earning my money doing music, but I was spending all of my time that I wasn't
Mm.
working on music. And I was able to be pretty prolific for a number of years there. So it's interesting because that was great. I was able to make as much stuff as I wanted. If I wanted to do something, I didn't have to respond to anyone. I could just go in and do it. But honestly, I felt like shit. I was not a very happy person.
Mm.
Um, so now I have much more balance in life. I have an amazing partner who I can pretty much say all the same about as you were describing your partner, and I'm like,
Mm.
very grateful to be able to say the same. So I have much more balance now, but it can be like I have to squeeze in uh time for music, which can make me frustrated sometimes.
Mm.
Um, but my main motivation for wanting to be a parent has been like the back end. I love being a dad. I love kids as well, but I want to have like other adults who I can relate to. Like I've had
Mhm.
many good conversations over a beer with my dad, and I feel like with the way that I'm involved as a dad that like the relationship that I'm going to have with my kids is going to be like tenfold what I've had with my parents. And
Mm.
I that's like what I look forward to. I love talking about life and philosophy and music and
Mm.
stuff too. And I can't wait until we're all kind of on that same intellectual playing field, so to speak,
Mm. Mhm.
and to just sit around a campfire, you know, cook something on the grill,
Oh.
uh, have some music on. Maybe we're all playing instruments too. Like that to me, I know I'm gonna have that at some point in my life, and like all of this period of me maybe not being able to record or release as much stuff as I'm accustomed to or as I would desire, like it'll all be worth it. So
Mm. Mm. That's really special.
it's my rant. Um,
I
so
hope
I
you
have,
get that, man. I really
yeah,
hope. I really hope you I know you will. I know you will.
I know I will too. So it's been cool to already see my daughter. I'm getting her a hand drum for her first birthday, which will be in October, because she's like, oh, I played Sergeant Pepper's the other day for her. That was kind of like the
Mhm.
first time and like immediate response. She's fucking like jamming along to it. I'm like, yes, yes, like this is amazing right now
Start her off
because
right,
it's
that's it.
such a theatrical record. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to see how she'd respond to it. And she's old enough now where it's like she's gonna notice anything that happens. So I'm gonna
Mm.
start like putting on some of my favorite records because up until this point, it's mostly been a lot of jazz that we've been playing to try it
Mhm.
like for neurological development. So not a whole
Mhm.
lot of like stuff with lyrics or
Mhm.
established groups, but like I gotta play her Dark Side of the Moon. Like I gotta play her my favorite records and just like watch her and see how she responds. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, for everyone listening out here, there's a lot of different ways to go after this. And if you draw up the blueprint in your mind, you can make it happen if you don't get in your own way. So Alex, thanks for sharing your approach. There's no right way to do it other than whatever feels right to you. That's the right way. So I appreciate you being candid about all of that. And if the time comes and you and your partner decide to adopt or do whatever it may be, I have full confidence that that child will be lucky to call you dad.
Oh,
Um,
thank you so much,
yeah,
man. Thank you. That
you're a
means a
very
lot.
sweet
Thank you.
person, and I'm
Thank you.
sure they'll feel held by you. So, on that note, we're gonna start wrapping up here. I have been doing this segment at the end of all of these podcasts, so I have a group playlist on Spotify. It's called A Collective Musical Mind, and
Mhm.
I'm asking each guest to give me a song or an EP that recently has had you feeling inspired that I will then throw on this playlist. So it doesn't
Wow.
need to be new, but it needs to be something recent that has been hitting you in the feels. And I'll throw it in the playlist and then everyone else can check it out.
Uh,
Take your time.
okay, that's great. I've got it.
All right. I'm
All
ready.
right.
What is it?
Um, it's uh, it's by a guy called Emmett Cohen. He's a jazz pianist in New York. I think it's Harlem or Brooklyn. I'm not 100% sure. His album is called Uptown in Orbit. I went to see him live in Paris earlier this year, and it was the best gig I've ever seen. It was the best live music I've ever seen in my life. It was they were top of their game, absolutely phenomenal musicians. There was all this just communication through no body language, no verbal communication, and all of these connections just were made, and it was just phenomenal. And they played so many songs on this album, and for me, it's been a huge inspiration. Really, like helped me think so much about my playing, especially in jazz, especially the way I go about um, voicing things and playing my chords and stuff, and connecting things together. It it's really made me think about the tradition of jazz and the history of the sound and how it's changed over the years, and how to incorporate that and how to respect that, and also how to like think where to go further with it or how to shape it in my own way to make it more how I would like to do it. So yeah, Uptown in Orbit by Emmett Cohen is my album that I would suggest putting up there. And if it's not the full album, any of the songs from there doesn't matter.
I
They're all
I
great.
put the whole thing in there already.
Oh, there we go. That's it.
Yeah, I'm excited to check that out. That sounds like what I'd be interested in hearing. Um, my pick that I put in there, if maybe you've heard this, but if you haven't, I feel like you should check it out. It's Crawl Space by Art Farmer.
Tune.
Do you
Oh,
know it?
such a good tune. Yeah, yeah, I know it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
the whole
really
that
like
whole record. Yeah.
it's really funky. Yeah.
Oh. Oh, you're the first person I know who knows that I
Yeah,
didn't
man.
show it to. That's
Yeah,
great.
it's tune. It's really great.
It's incredible. Well, you'd be the person to ask them because part of why I need more of that. Like, I I can't if you have other recommendations that are in that vein,
Mhm.
please send them my way because
I will. I
it's
definitely will.
been years that I've been listening to that record, and I like even when Spotify starts, like, playing more stuff afterwards, like, it's good, but it does not
It's
do
not
the
that
same
itch.
thing for me,
Yeah, yeah.
so I'd appreciate that. But,
Yeah,
alright,
I'll try and
Alex,
get that.
thanks so much for being here. I know you're a busy man, and, it was great to have you on, great to talk with you, and, best of luck to you out there. Keep doing your thing, and if there's any projects that you want people to, check out, you'd mentioned the is it the Jazz Apples?
That's it. The Jazz Apples.
Yeah,
Yes.
or anything else, I'll put it all in the show notes, but you can also share it right now if you'd like.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, so the Jazz Apples, we've got like a big band type thing that we're working on. We're working on a show for that, which includes my tap dancing as well as a horn section. And we're trying to sort of theme it 1920s and 30s.
Nice.
Yeah, watch out for that. That'll be coming in later in the year. Also, my solo stuff, my YouTube channel. Um, I don't know how easy it is to find on YouTube search, but if you just search Alex Thompson and then Profit Rev 2, something will come up, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Um, and my Instagram is Alex Thompson Keys. And there I post all my little reels of me just playing keys here and there, wherever in my studio or at gigs and stuff like that. So yeah, feel free to follow me. I'm trying to get back on the content train and do regular uploads. So it's
Yeah.
it's going to become more regular.
All right. Well, we all look forward to seeing that stuff from you. Thanks again for being here and have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, you made it to the end, and that means you learned some stuff along the way. Big thanks to Alex for coming on. It was great to hear his story. Hopefully, it was inspiring to you as it was to me to just hear someone who just took the dive, took the plunge, and here he is a whole ass decade later at the young ripe age of just 28. I think he's around 28 if my math was right from what we talked about on air there. But if you want to connect with Alex, you can give him a follow at Alex Thompson Keys. You can also find his YouTube channel. That's how I found him. That is just Alex Thompson. If you search Prophet Rev 2 Lo-Fi or Prophet Rev 2 Pluck Patch, you're probably going to wind up seeing Alex's videos there. Super awesome stuff. And then his group, the Jazz Apples, that he and his partner are a part of, they also have some stuff up on YouTube, and it's super cool because they tend to have like these kind of, old-timey 1920s vibes videos to go along with whatever they're playing. So check out the Jazz Apples as well. And that's about it for today. When your head hits the pillow tonight, just remember, don't take the life you've got for granted. Thanks for listening to A Musical Mind. I have been your host, Richard Raymond II. If you, your band, or your friend, or anyone you know is in need of mixing and mastering services, I offer that remotely. Shoot me an email. That's richardraymond2@gmail.com. No spaces, all spelled out. You can also give me a follow, Richard_Raymond_II on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. We'll get to making some cool shit. And please like this podcast, share it with a friend, give it a 5-star rating. It ain't too hard to do. I appreciate you for being here, and I'll see you next time.